My name is Maeve, and I am 34 years old. The text came in exactly at 6:47 on a Tuesday evening, right as I was standing in my dimly lit kitchen, pulling my meager dinner together after a shift that had quite literally drained the life out of me. I work as a regional logistics and supply chain manager for a massive medical equipment distributor here in North Carolina. My entire professional existence revolves around solving complex crises. I spend my days tracking international shipping containers, mitigating catastrophic delays, analyzing endless rows of spreadsheet data, and ensuring that life-saving hospital equipment reaches surgical wards before it is too late. It is a grueling, unforgiving job where a single calculation error can cost millions, but it is a job I fought tooth and nail to secure. I climbed the corporate ladder with no safety net, no financial handouts, and absolutely no emotional support from the people who share my last name. On this particular Tuesday, I had just finished a brutal 12-hour shift, wrestling with a freight contract dispute that nearly gave me a stress-induced migraine. The drive home had been a blur of heavy traffic and pounding rain. All I wanted in the entire world was to stand in the quiet sanctuary of my own home, eat my leftover $3 boxed macaroni and cheese straight from the plastic container, and stare blankly at the kitchen wall until my brain stopped buzzing. Then, my phone buzzed against the cold marble counter. The vibration was harsh and angry, demanding rhythm that shattered the fragile silence of the room. I glanced down and saw my sister's name light up the screen. Lorelei. I stared at the glowing letters for a long second, feeling a familiar, heavy knot of anxiety tighten at the base of my throat. Lorelei never, ever texted just to say hello. She was 37 years old, a self-proclaimed wellness and lifestyle coach who possessed absolutely no actual credentials. She spent her days curating a heavily filtered Instagram grid, posting inspirational quotes about manifesting wealth, and living a life of leisure funded by a constant, revolving door of other people's money. When Lorelei's name appeared on my phone, it inevitably meant that someone needed to clean up her latest mess, or more accurately, someone needed to open their wallet. I dried my damp hands on a dish towel, took a deep breath to brace myself, and unlocked the screen. The message read, "Wire me $12,500 for Imogen's Sweet 16. I stopped breathing. For a fraction of a second, the universe simply paused. $12,500. The number sat there on the glass screen, bold, arrogant, and entirely unhinged. It glared back at me like a physical threat. Underneath that commanding, punctuation-less sentence were 3 high-resolution photographs. The first image was a sprawling, opulent banquet hall dripping in luxurious gold chiffon drapery. Massive crystal chandeliers hung from the vaulted ceilings, reflecting blinding light off a polished marble dance floor that looked like it belonged in a royal palace. I recognized the room instantly. It was the Grand Astor, the most exclusive, ridiculously expensive historical hotel venue in the entire city. It was the kind of place where local politicians held fundraising galas, not where teenagers ate pizza. The second photo featured a dress. It was a custom-made, floor-length gown in a delicate blush pink, completely covered in intricate hand-sewn sequins. It was hanging on a padded silk hanger, and the designer tags were still clearly visible, dangling from the sleeve. I zoomed in. The price tag on the dress alone was $2,200. The third picture was of a cake. It was a towering, 5-tier architectural marvel, completely covered in edible gold leaf, with a small, meticulously crafted fondant tiara perched on the very top layer. The caption tucked neatly under that last photo simply said, "Worth every penny, right? Send the funds to my main account by Thursday morning at the latest." I stared at my phone for a long, agonizing moment before slowly setting it face down on the counter. My hands had begun to shake. It wasn't the trembling of fear or even panic, but rather something much closer to profound disbelief mixed with a slow-burning, toxic anger that I hadn't allowed myself to feel in years. I dropped the plastic fork I had been holding into the stainless steel sink. It landed with a hollow, pathetic clatter that echoed in the quiet kitchen. The sheer audacity of it was suffocating. The breathtaking, unfathomable entitlement. Lorelei and I had never been close, not really. We were sisters by blood, sharing the same DNA, but we had grown up in two vastly different realities under the exact same roof. She was always the undisputed golden child, the fragile, delicate flower who needed constant watering, praise, and financial shielding. I was the invisible workhorse, the one expected to quietly plow the fields and never ask for a single drop of water. And now, she was casually demanding that I hand over a massive chunk of my hard-earned savings, money I had bled for, money I had sacrificed my youth to accumulate for a ridiculous party that was clearly designed for her own social media clout. Not for my sweet, introverted 16-year-old niece. Imogen didn't even like big crowds. She was a quiet kid who preferred reading fantasy novels. This extravagant circus was entirely about Lorelai wanting to play the wealthy, successful matriarch for her fake internet friends, and she expected me to foot the bill. I picked the phone back up. The screen illuminated my face in the dim kitchen. I typed my response before my ingrained habit of keeping the peace could second-guess my anger. Get a job. 3 words. No explanation, no softening, no polite excuses, and absolutely no emoji to cushion the blow. I hit send and immediately felt a strange, dizzying mixture of profound relief and sinking dread. It felt exactly like I had just stepped off a high ledge and knew, with absolute certainty, that I couldn't climb back up. I thought that would be the end of it. I assumed she would throw a dramatic tantrum to her husband, complain about how mean I was, and eventually leave me alone. I was completely, disastrously wrong. The reply didn't come from Lorelai. It came from my father exactly 10 minutes later. His name is Thaddeus. He is a stubborn, prideful man obsessed with appearances and demanding total obedience from his children. He is a man who loves the concept of traditional family hierarchy, but hates the actual work of parenting. He has never, not once in my entire 34 years of life, texted me anything longer than a single, practical sentence. This message read, "Pay up, or you're no longer family." I read the text 3 times, staring at the pixels, waiting desperately for the words to somehow rearrange themselves into something less brutal, less final. They didn't. The air in the kitchen suddenly felt very cold. My father, a man who had lectured me relentlessly for years about the virtues of staying humble, a man who constantly preached about the dangers of raising entitled children, was now actively threatening to erase me from his life over a 16-year-old's birthday party. A party I wasn't invited to plan, a party I wasn't asked to help coordinate, and, apparently, a party I was only being informed about so I could act as the silent bankroller. He was holding our entire biological relationship hostage for $12,500. I realized in that agonizing, breathless moment that the stakes had never been clearer. This wasn't just a disagreement about a party budget. This was a formal eviction notice from my own bloodline, delivered via SMS. I was standing on the edge of a precipice, staring down into the dark, hollow reality of what my family truly thought of me. And the most terrifying part wasn't the impending fall. The terrifying part was realizing how long I had been standing on that ledge without ever knowing it. I slowly sat down on one of the wooden stools at my kitchen island, the cheap macaroni and cheese completely forgotten, congealing and going ice-cold beside me. My heart was hammering against my ribs with the frantic, terrified rhythm of a trapped bird. The words "no longer family" burned into my retinas, leaving a ghost image every time I blinked. I needed to hear his voice. The rational part of my brain, the logistics manager who dealt in hard facts, refused to accept a text message as a final verdict. I needed to hear my own father say those words out loud, to confirm with his own breath that he was truly, actually willing to throw away his youngest daughter over a lavish, unnecessary party. My fingers trembled slightly, slick with cold sweat, as I pressed the call button on his contact. The line rang. Once. Twice. The voice that answered wasn't my father's deep, commanding baritone. It was my mother. Maeve, Genevieve answered. The moment she spoke my name, I knew exactly how this was going to play out. Her voice was already thick and wavering with forced tears, carrying that incredibly familiar, trembling cadence she only ever used whenever she wanted to manipulate a situation to her advantage. How could you do this to your sister? She whispered, sounding as if I had committed a violent crime. Mom, put Dad on the phone, I said, forcing my voice to remain dangerously level, stripping it of any emotion. Your father is entirely too furious to speak to you right now, she sobbed, the sound grating against my exhausted nerves like sandpaper. He is sitting in his armchair clutching his chest, Maeve. Do you want to give him a heart attack? Is that your goal? Lorelai is in the guest bedroom having a severe panic attack. She is in a full-blown mental health crisis right now because of your unbelievable selfishness. I closed my eyes tightly, pinching the bridge of my nose as a throbbing headache began to bloom behind my eyes. A mental health crisis because I won't buy her a $12,000 party? Mom, please tell me you hear how insane that sounds. Do you hear yourself? I sent 3 words. 3 words telling her to be responsible. She is the one who demanded a fortune. It is for Imogen. Genevieve wailed, dialing up the dramatics to a theatrical level. It's a once-in-a-lifetime milestone. A girl only turns 16 once. Lorelai just wants her daughter to have the absolute best. You know how fragile your sister is. You know she struggles. She has been under so much immense pressure lately trying to build her lifestyle coaching business. And you have that big, fancy corporate job. You are single. You don't have children to feed. $12,500 is nothing compared to your salary. Why must you always be so cold and calculating? The air in my lungs instantly turned to ash. I slowly opened my eyes and looked down at my pathetic $3 dinner. I thought about the grueling 12-hour shifts. I thought about the weekends I spent buried in logistics software, missing out on social events, while Lorelai posted pictures of her expensive mimosa brunch dates with hashtags about manifesting wealth and abundance. I thought about the promotions I had bled for, the savings account I had built meticulously, dollar by agonizing dollar, knowing full well that if I ever stumbled, if I ever lost my job or got sick, there was absolutely no safety net waiting to catch me. My family wouldn't help me. They never had. It's not nothing, Mom, I whispered, the simmering anger finally solidifying into a dense, heavy weight in my stomach. It's my money. I sacrificed my 20s to earn it. And Dad just threatened to permanently disown me over it. He didn't mean it like that. He is just trying to protect this family's image, she snapped. Her tears dried up instantly, the weeping act vanishing in a split second, replaced by a defensive, venomous tone. We have important relatives flying in from out of state. We have social expectations to maintain. If you don't pay for this event, the vendors will cancel, and we will all be publicly humiliated. Is that what you want? To humiliate your own flesh and blood in front of everyone we know? You have until Thursday morning, Maeve. Fix this. Click. She hung up. The line went completely dead, leaving only the hollow, rhythmic hum of the dial tone echoing in my ear. I sat completely motionless in the silence of my kitchen. The contrast between my reality and theirs was physically nauseating. They lived in a bizarre fantasy world, a glittering castle constructed entirely on a foundation of my hard work and financial stability. I was expected to finance their delusions of grandeur without question, and the exact moment I politely refused to be their bank, I was instantly branded a monster. My breathing grew shallow. A terrifying, icy clarity began to wash over my mind. For years, I had held on to a quiet, desperate belief that if I was just helpful enough, if I was generous enough, if I remained quiet and never caused trouble, they would eventually see my worth. I thought one day they would look past the blinding, golden haze surrounding Lorelai and realize that I was a good person, a good daughter, and that I was worthy of their love and respect, too. But looking at the cold, black screen of my phone, hearing my mother's harsh, demanding voice still echoing in the empty room, I finally understood the brutal truth. I was never a daughter to them. Not really. I was a utility. I was a backup generator they kept locked down in the dark basement, only acknowledging my existence when the main power went out and they needed someone to keep the lights on. I pushed the cold bowl of pasta away, feeling physically sick. The sadness, the longing for parental approval that had plagued me for decades, was suddenly gone. Evaporated. What replaced it was a sharp, calculating, dangerous rage. If they wanted to play a high-stakes game of numbers, threats, and ultimatums, they had chosen the absolute wrong opponent. Because before this night was over, I was going to open the heavy steel vault I had kept sealed for a very long time. It was time to take a long, hard walk through the Museum of Pain. I didn't move from the kitchen stool. I let the silence wrap around me, intentionally letting my mind drift backward, unlocking the heavy, rusted doors to memories I had spent decades trying to suppress and ignore. I needed to remember. I needed to document the history of their neglect to justify what I was about to do. It was time to take a complete inventory. Exhibit A sat right in the center of my mental museum, illuminated by a harsh spotlight. I was 16 years old. I desperately needed a car to get to my after-school advanced placement classes and my part-time job. I spent an entire, miserable summer working double shifts at a greasy, run-down local diner. I scrubbed heavy cast-iron griddles until the skin on my hands was raw, cracked, and covered in burn blisters. I went to bed every single night smelling like stale fry oil and cheap bleach. By the end of the summer, after saving every single penny, I had scraped together exactly $2,000 to buy a sputtering, rust-bucket Honda sedan with a broken air conditioner and a driver's side door that had to be kicked open. I was so incredibly proud of that car. It represented my independence. Exactly 2 weeks later, Lorelei turned 18. My parents threw her a massive, catered backyard party. Towards the end of the evening, my father proudly walked her out to the driveway with her eyes covered. Sitting there, wrapped in a giant, obnoxious red velvet bow, was a brand-new, silver BMW convertible. When I quietly approached my father later that night and asked, with genuine confusion, why they had forced me to work to the bone for a rusted, unsafe sedan while handing her a luxury vehicle without her working a single day, he didn't even look up from his newspaper. I remember his exact words. "Your sister has sensitive skin, Maeve. She can't be waiting around at public bus stops or driving a junker without proper climate control. You're tough. You can handle a little character building. Don't be jealous." I swallowed the bitter pill, fighting back tears of humiliation, and kept driving my junker. Exhibit B was much more recent and infinitely more painful because I should have known better. 3 years ago, my parents called me in a sheer panic. There had been a severe thunderstorm system moving through the state, and they claimed a section of their roof had completely caved in over the living room. They said their homeowner's insurance wouldn't cover the water damage due to a technicality, and they were facing absolute financial ruin. Without hesitation, without asking for a single thank you card, without demanding proof, I quietly wired $8,000 directly into their checking account. It was literally half of my entire life savings at the time. I ate ramen noodles and skipped turning on my heater for 2 months during the winter to make up for the financial hit. 6 months later, I drove down for a surprise weekend visit. I pulled into the driveway, got out of my car, and looked up at the house. The roof looked exactly the same. There were no new shingles, no evidence of patching, no signs of recent construction. I walked into the house and found my father sitting comfortably in his recliner, watching a golf tournament. When I casually asked about how the roof repairs had gone, he waved me off, muttering something about a quick patch job. But later that afternoon, while looking for a pen in the home office to write down a recipe, I opened the top desk drawer. Sitting right there, on top of a stack of mail, was an invoice. It was a receipt for exactly $8,000, paid in full to a known, fraudulent online academy for a VIP Elite Master Lifestyle Coach certification. The student's name printed boldly on the invoice was Lorelei. I confronted my father, the paper shaking violently in my hand. I demanded to know why my emergency funds, my hard-earned safety net, went to fund my sister's ridiculous vanity project while they lied about a collapsing roof. He stood up, towering over me, his face turning red with indignation. "Your sister is trying to build a legitimate career. She needs capital investment for her future. Why are you always so calculating and miserly with your own family? Money is just money, Maeve. Stop acting like a greedy corporate accountant. Family helps family." They had stolen from me. They had looked me in the eye, lied to my face, manipulated my deep sense of empathy, and funneled my financial security directly into the bottomless pit of my sister's ego. And when they were caught red-handed, they turned it around and made me the villain. Exhibit C was happening right now. Today, in the present tense. I was a 34-year-old woman with a highly successful career, a beautiful home I owned outright, and a stable life I had built entirely on my own merits. Yet, at our last Thanksgiving dinner, when I tentatively tried to mention my recent, massive promotion to regional manager, my mother physically waved her hand in my face to silence me. She literally shushed me, because at that exact moment, Lorelai was loudly announcing to the table that one of her sponsored Instagram posts had just hit 500 likes. My achievement, a decade in the making, managing a multi-million-dollar logistics network, was swatted away like a bothersome fly so my sister could bask in the shallow, meaningless glow of minor internet validation. I opened my eyes, the harsh neon light of the kitchen buzzing above me. The memories didn't hurt anymore. The stinging pain of rejection was completely gone. They were just data points now. Cold, hard, undeniable facts on a ledger. By the time the sun fully went down, painting the sky outside my window in shades of bruised purple and black, I wasn't crying. I wasn't even angry in the loud, explosive, screaming way I thought I'd be. Instead, I felt a strange, cold, surgical clarity settling over my entire being, like heavy fog lifting off a still lake at dawn. I understood, finally, completely, and irreversibly, that this family had never valued me for who I was as a human being. They valued me exclusively for what I could provide, quietly and without question, and the exact moment I stopped providing, I immediately stopped mattering. 34 years of playing the good, quiet, invisible soldier were officially over. My father's text message was the match that lit the fuse, but my family had spent a lifetime systematically soaking the bridge in gasoline. It was time to let it burn. The digital clock on the microwave glared a bright neon green. 7:45. The silence in my house was heavy and oppressive, broken only by the low, mechanical hum of the refrigerator. I stood up, taking my ruined macaroni to the trash can. Just as I was about to scrape the congealed mess into the bin, my phone rang again. I glanced at the screen, expecting to see my mother's number again, preparing for round 2 of the guilt trip. It wasn't my parents. The caller ID flashed Evander. Evander was Lorelai's husband. He was a man who possessed the truly remarkable, almost supernatural ability to fail upward in every aspect of his life. He floated through his existence on a comfortable cushion of borrowed money, unearned confidence, and my sister's relentless demands on our parents. He liked to play the role of the calm, rational, easygoing peacemaker, but in reality, he was just a lazy, opportunistic parasite who deeply enjoyed the luxurious lifestyle my sister's emotional extortion provided him. I let the phone ring. Once, twice, 3 times. I debated ignoring it, but the strategic part of my brain knew I needed to gather intelligence. I swiped to answer, bringing the phone to my ear. I didn't say hello. Maeve, hey there, Evander's voice oozed through the speaker, dripping with a sickeningly condescending warmth that immediately made my skin crawl. Listen, I know things got a little heated with your dad just now. You know how the old man gets when he's stressed. I just wanted to call and talk to you privately, sister to brother. Keep things rational. We aren't siblings, Evander, I said flatly, my voice devoid of any inflection. He chuckled, a wet, unpleasant sound that grates the ear. Come on, Maeve, don't be like that. We're all family here. Look, I'm calling because Lorelai is really in a bad place right now. She's literally crying her eyes out in the master bedroom. You know how her anxiety spirals out of control. She has put her absolute heart and soul into planning this beautiful party for Imogen. It's all she's been talking about for 6 straight months. She wants $12,500, Evander. That's not planning a party, that's staging a highway robbery on my bank account. Evander sighed heavily, shifting seamlessly into his patronizing, disappointed parent tone. It's an investment in memories, Maeve. You can't put a price tag on a young girl's happiness. And frankly, Lorelai has sacrificed a lot of her own time and energy for this. Do you know Imogen couldn't even fit into that custom designer dress at first? Lorelai had to put the poor kid on a strict, liquid-only juice cleanse for 3 weeks. She practically forced Imogen to lose 7 pounds just so the zipper would go up and it would look perfect for the photographer. That's real maternal dedication. Don't ruin this massive achievement for them just because you're feeling a little stingy tonight. My stomach violently churned. A wave of pure, unadulterated disgust washed over me, so strong I physically swayed on my feet. Imogen was a sweet, quiet, perfectly healthy girl who loved reading thick fantasy novels and wearing comfortable, oversized sweaters. She was a normal teenager. And her own mother had actively, intentionally starved her for 3 weeks, forcing her to lose weight she didn't need to lose, just to cram her into a designer gown for an Instagram photo op. The sheer, narcissistic cruelty of it was staggering. You starved a healthy 16-year-old girl for an internet aesthetic, I said, my voice dropping to a dangerous, razor-sharp whisper. You are both absolutely disgusting. Evander's fake warmth vanished in a millisecond. The friendly brother-in-law mask slipped off completely, revealing the sneering, desperate opportunist underneath. Watch your mouth, Maeve, he snapped, his voice turning hard, ugly, and threatening. You don't get to sit there and judge us from your sad, empty, lonely little house. You have the money. We need the money to pay these vendors. End of story. If you don't wire that cash by tomorrow morning, I'm going to make sure everyone in your little professional circle knows exactly what kind of selfish, toxic person you really are. I'll post the whole story all over Facebook. I'll tag your company's official page. I'll write a nice, long, detailed review on your employer's LinkedIn page about how their star regional manager mentally abuses her own family and intentionally ruins a child's milestone birthday. Let's see how much your fancy boss respects you after a PR nightmare like that. He paused, letting the heavy threat hang in the air, fully expecting me to crumble. He expected the quiet, invisible sister to panic at the thought of public confrontation and professional embarrassment. So, Evander said smugly, savoring what he thought was his victory. Are we going to do this the easy way or the hard way? I didn't yell. I didn't cry. My logistics brain, the highly trained part of my mind that assessed supply chain threats, analyzed breach of contracts, and neutralized risks on a daily basis, clicked into high gear. Evander thought he was dropping a nuclear bomb. He didn't realize he was bringing a butter knife to a gunfight with a professional risk manager. Do whatever you want, Evander, I said softly, and pressed the red button to end the call. He thought his threat was the killing blow. He didn't know it was the siren signaling my devastating counterattack. I walked out of the kitchen, leaving the trash and the dirty dishes behind, and walked straight down the hallway to my home office. I walked in, shut the heavy oak door behind me, and sat down in my ergonomic leather desk chair. I booted up my laptop and cracked my knuckles. The blue light from the monitor illuminated the dark room, casting sharp shadows against the walls. Evander's specific threat about the vendors canceling had triggered a memory. A very specific, very crucial memory from exactly 6 months ago, back when this whole nightmare began. When Lorelei first started planning this absurd spectacle, she had her sights set on the Grand Astor Hotel. It was an iconic, historical venue, usually reserved for million-dollar charity galas, corporate summits, and high society weddings. They didn't just let anyone book a Saturday night in their main ballroom, and more importantly, their finance department required a massive, non-refundable upfront deposit that Lorelei and Evander absolutely did not have in their overdrawn bank accounts. So, naturally, she had come crying to me. She knew that my best friend since college, Rowena, was the current director of events at the Grand Astor. Lorelei had begged me, with actual tears in her eyes, to pull some strings, to use my personal friendship to secure a family discount and somehow waive the strict deposit rules. Because I loved my niece and, at the time, foolishly wanted to keep the fragile peace in the family, I had agreed to make the introduction. To get the corporate family rate and bypass the standard accounting protocols, Rowena had to set the account up under my profile. She sent me a secure digital contract link. I agreed to co-sign the initial holding fee as a personal favor, trusting that Lorelei and Evander would handle the actual event payments and catering choices themselves. The document I digitally signed specifically listed me as an honorary guarantor, just to hold the date. I opened my email archive, my fingers flying across the keyboard, and typed Grand Aster contract into the search bar. The original email thread from Rowena popped up immediately. I clicked the secure encrypted link to the hotel's client portal and logged in with my credentials. The dashboard loaded, displaying the event details for Imogen's Sweet 16 Gala. I clicked on the Billing and Services tab. My eyes rapidly scanned the itemized list, and my blood ran ice-cold in my veins. When I first introduced them to Rowena, the agreed-upon plan was for a standard, elegant afternoon buffet in one of the smaller, secondary side rooms. The total estimated cost was around $3,000, which Lorelei swore on her life she would pay off in small monthly installments. But looking at the digital ledger now, the venue was no longer a side room. It was listed as the Imperial Grand Ballroom. The catering had been drastically upgraded from a standard chicken buffet to a premium seafood and prime rib carving station. There was a massive charge for a dry ice champagne tower for a party composed mostly of underage teenagers. There was a premium intelligent lighting package, a custom-printed vinyl dance floor decal, and upgraded crushed velvet chair covers. The total was staggering. But the itemized cost wasn't the worst part. I clicked on the contract history log in the corner of the screen. The hotel's system rigorously tracked every single change made to the account, including the IP address and timestamps of the user who made them. I cross-referenced the dates. 3 months ago, someone had logged into the portal. They had accepted all the luxury upgrades. And at the very bottom of the revised, incredibly expensive master contract, there was a digital signature authorizing the changes. Maeve. My breath caught in my throat. Lorelei hadn't just quietly used my name to get a discount. She had logged in, likely guessing my simple password or keeping the session active on her phone from when I initially set it up for her in person. And she had blatantly forged my digital signature to authorize an extra $5,000 in luxury upgrades. What I hadn't realized until this exact night was that she had quietly listed me as the primary contact and the sole financial guarantor for the entire event, including the caterer, the dress boutique, and the bakery. If the massive bill wasn't paid in full by this Friday, the Grand Aster wouldn't go after Lorelei. Their aggressive corporate legal department would go directly after me. They would ruin my excellent credit score, garnish my corporate wages, and drag my professional name through the mud. Lorelei and Evander thought they were so incredibly clever. They thought they had trapped me in an inescapable legal snare, forcing me to either wire them the cash directly to save face or face total financial ruin at the hands of the hotel's lawyers. They assumed I would be too intimidated by the binding legal contract to fight back. A slow, dangerous, terrifying smile crept across my face in the dark office. They forgot one fundamental rule of corporate logistics and contract law. The person whose name is on the contract is indeed the person who assumes the financial risk. But the person who assumes the risk is also the person who holds the absolute, unquestionable power. She thought the contract was a heavy iron chain wrapped tightly around my neck. She didn't realize she had just handed me the remote control to detonate her entire explosive fantasy. I looked at the digital clock on the bottom right corner of my monitor. It was exactly 9 o'clock at night. I picked up my phone, completely bypassed my family's toxic, incoming message threads, and scrolled quickly through my contacts until I found the specific number I was looking for. I pressed call. It rang only once before she picked up, as if she had been sitting with her phone in her hand. Maeve? Oh, thank God, Rowena's voice came through the speaker, sounding incredibly tense and exhausted. I was literally just about to call you. Are you okay? I saw the remaining balance on the account is due this Friday, and things are getting really weird on this end. Hey, Ro, I said, my voice frighteningly calm, stripped of all the panic she clearly expected. I need to talk to you about the party. Rowena let out a massive sigh of relief that crackled through the phone's microphone. Please tell me you're taking over the communication permanently. Your sister has been an absolute nightmare to deal with. She called my office 3 times today, screaming at my staff about the specific shade of gold on the napkin rings. And Maeve. I didn't want to bring this up to stress you out, but she's been saying some really nasty things about you to the other vendors. What kind of things? I asked, pulling up the master contract numbers on my screen, highlighting them with my cursor. She told the floral designer that you were a bitter spinster who is just funding the party because you have no life or family of your own. She explicitly told our head pastry chef not to CC you on the design emails because you're quote-unquote financially controlling and deeply jealous of her happiness. I wanted to defend you, but she acts like she's the client and… She's not the client, Rowena, I interrupted, my tone slicing through her frantic explanation like a surgical scalpel. Look at the master contract on your system. Look at the financial guarantor line. I heard the rapid clicking of a keyboard on her end. A brief pause. Okay, yes, I'm looking at it. You are listed as the primary on the venue, the catering, and you're linked as the financial referral for the dress boutique and the bakery. Right. And as the primary account holder, I have full executive authority over the event, correct? I can make any changes I deem necessary. Legally? Yes, absolutely. But Maeve, what's going on? You sound different. Rowena, I said, leaning back in my heavy leather chair and staring intently at the flashing cursor on my computer screen. I took a deep, steadying breath, marshaling every single ounce of professional, ruthless discipline I possessed. I spoke the 4 words that would change the trajectory of my life forever. Cancel. Cancel it all. There was a heavy, stunned pause on the other end of the line. I could hear Rowena's brain processing the sheer magnitude of what I had just commanded. Then I heard a slow, sharp exhale. Maeve, Rowena said carefully, her professional event director voice instantly kicking in to replace the friendly tone. If I hit the emergency cancellation button in the system right now, it triggers an irreversible cascade. The ballroom reservation drops immediately and becomes available to the public. Automated emails go out to the caterer, the decorator, and all the third-party vendors severing the ties. Are you absolutely sure you want to do this? I have never been more sure of anything in my entire life, I replied smoothly, without a microsecond of hesitation. Okay, but listen to me very carefully, Rowena warned, her tone shifting back to that of a fiercely protective friend. If you pull the plug now, so close to the date, you cross the penalty threshold. There is absolutely no getting the $3,000 deposit back. It's legally forfeit to the hotel. You will lose that money entirely, and the date cannot be rebooked for you once I execute this command. Once it's gone, it's gone. I thought about the 16 years of being treated like a ghost in my own home. I thought about the rusted car, the fake roof repair, the ruined Thanksgiving dinner, the starved teenager, and the text message telling me I was dead to my own father. $3,000 was an incredibly cheap price to pay to buy back my soul. Hit the button, Row, execute the emergency cancellation clause for master contract number 742A. Understood, Rowena said quietly. Through the phone speaker, I heard the sharp, definitive click of her computer mouse. It's done, she whispered. The system is processing the voids right now. Automated cancellation notifications are being dispatched to every vendor on the list. Thank you, Rowena. I owe you a very expensive drink. I hung up the phone. I closed the laptop, plunging the room back into total darkness. I walked into my living room, went to the small glass bar cart, and poured myself a heavy glass of expensive red wine. I took a slow sip, feeling the rich warmth spread through my chest. Somewhere in the city, digital servers were quietly, efficiently dismantling $12,500 worth of lies, arrogance, and entitlement. By tomorrow morning, my sister's fantasy world would burn entirely to the ground, and I would be the one holding the match. The countdown had begun. Thank you for watching this far. If you support Maeve's decision, please comment, I'm win. This is a special symbol for loyal viewers who have watched this far. I will like and reply to all comments containing the keyword I'm win. I woke up the next morning at 6 in the morning, long before my alarm was set to go off. For the first time in over a decade, I had slept through the night without grinding my teeth or waking up with a heavy knot of anxiety in my chest. The air in my bedroom felt lighter. I threw off the covers, walked into the kitchen, and started brewing a pot of strong dark roast coffee. By 7:30, the sun was fully up, casting a warm golden glow across my hardwood floors. I poured myself a mug, stepped out onto my back porch, and took a deep breath of the crisp morning air. Then, the digital storm began. My phone, which had been sitting silently on the patio table, erupted. It did not just ring. It vibrated violently, sliding across the glass surface with a continuous, angry buzzing sound. The screen lit up with a blinding barrage of notifications. Missed calls, text messages, voicemails, and email alerts flooded in so fast the operating system visibly lagged. I took a slow sip of my coffee, relishing the bitter taste, and unlocked the screen. The first voicemail was from the exclusive bridal boutique downtown. The manager's voice was polite but firm, stating that per my explicit cancellation request filed through the hotel's vendor portal, the blush pink sequined gown reserved under my name had been released back into their active inventory. The second voicemail was from the Artisan Bakery. The head pastry chef sounded genuinely relieved, confirming that the 5-tier fondant order had been voided and the production schedule cleared. The third, fourth, fifth, and sixth calls were all from Lorelei. I tapped the screen and put her first voicemail on speaker. "Maeve, what the hell is going on?" Lorelei's voice crackled through the speaker, tight with confusion and early-stage panic. "The florist just called and said the event was flagged as cancelled in their system. Fix this right now. Call them and tell them it is a glitch. I swear to God, if you were playing some kind of sick joke." I skipped to the next message, left 20 minutes later. "Maeve, pick up the phone." The confusion had fully morphed into unhinged fury. "I am standing in the lobby of the Grand Astor right now. The front desk manager just told me our ballroom reservation was terminated last night. He said the primary account holder authorized an emergency cancellation." "What did you do?" "You spiteful, jealous bitch. Call me back this instant." I smiled, taking another sip of my coffee. The sheer, unadulterated panic in her voice was like music to my ears. I opened my text messages to see a notification from Rowena. "Good morning," Rowena wrote. "Just wanted to give you a quick update. The system purged your reservation at exactly 9:10 last night. At 9:15, I got a frantic call from a corporate event planner representing a major pharmaceutical company. They needed an emergency booking for a weekend summit. I slotted them right into your old date. Since I filled the vacant spot within 12 hours, hotel policy dictates that your entire cancellation penalty is waived. The $3,000 deposit has been fully refunded to your card. You owe us exactly $0. Oh, and by the way, your sister showed up in the lobby screaming at my staff about an hour ago. Security had to escort her off the premises. Have a great day at work." I let out a breathless laugh. Lorelei had lost everything. The venue, the dress, the cake, and the illusion of control. And thanks to Rowena's brilliant maneuvering, I had lost nothing. But I knew the game wasn't over. Lorelei was entirely exposed, but she was not the final boss of this toxic family dynamic. Right on cue, the screen shifted from Rowena's text to an incoming call screen. The caller ID simply read, "Dad." I placed my coffee mug down on the table. The warmth of the morning sun faded, replaced by a cold, sharp focus. It was time for the main event. I answered the phone on the third ring, holding it steady against my ear. "Hello, Thaddeus," I said. "What in the name of God is wrong with you?" my father roared into the receiver. His voice was so loud I had to pull the phone an inch away from my ear. He was breathing heavily, the sound of his rage echoing through the line. "Lorelei is having a hysterical breakdown in the driveway. She said you maliciously canceled her entire event. You humiliated this family on purpose. You are a disgrace, Maeve. Call that hotel right now, apologize to the manager, and fix this." "I am not fixing anything," I replied, my voice dangerously calm and perfectly measured. "And I am not apologizing. You told me last night that if I did not pay up, I was no longer family. I am simply honoring your request. I am no longer funding the delusions of your golden child." "Over $2,000, he spat back, his voice dripping with venomous contempt. "You destroyed your niece's milestone birthday over a miserable $2,000 venue deposit? You make six figures, Maeve. You are acting like a greedy, vindictive sociopath over pocket change." I froze. My brain, trained to analyze data discrepancies, caught the error immediately. "Wait," I said, my voice slicing through his rant. "What number did you just say?" $2,000, he yelled. Lorelai told me you promised to cover the $2,000 holding fee for the room, and then you backed out at the last minute just to spite her. A dark, humorless laugh escaped my throat. The puzzle pieces violently snapped together. Lorelai hadn't just forged my signature. She had lied to our parents about the scale of the financial extortion. She knew Thaddeus was arrogant, but she also knew he was cheap. If she had told him the real number, even he might have hesitated. "Dad," I said, leaning forward in my chair. "Who sent that text message to me last night?" "The one threatening to disown me." "I did," he bellowed. "Because you were being a selfish brat." "Really?" I challenged. "Because you have never sent a text message with proper punctuation in your life. And you certainly do not type that fast. Where were you at 6:57 last night?" There was a slight hesitation on the line. "I was in the shower. Your mother and sister were in the kitchen." "What does that matter?" "It matters because Lorelai had your phone," I stated, letting the reality sink in. "She sent that threat. Not you. But since you are so eager to defend her honor, let us talk about the money. Open your email right now." "I am not playing games with you, Maeve. Open your email, Dad, or I hang up and block your number forever." I heard him grumble, followed by the sound of heavy footsteps and the clicking of a computer mouse. While he navigated to his inbox, I exported the master digital contract from the hotel portal, the one bearing the forged signature and the itemized luxury upgrades. I attached it to an email and hit send. "Look at the document I just sent you," I instructed. "Look at the total amount due at the bottom of the second page." There was a long, heavy silence. I could hear his raspy breathing through the speaker. I knew exactly which line his eyes were scanning. $12,500, I said, reading it out loud for him. She upgraded the food to a premium seafood carving station. She ordered a dry ice champagne tower. And then, she went into the system and digitally forged my signature to make me the sole financial guarantor. If I did not pay that $12,000 by Friday, the hotel's legal team was going to garnish my wages and destroy my credit. The silence on the other end stretched on. It was a thick, suffocating silence. "She lied to you," I continued, twisting the knife. "She stole your phone to threaten me, and she tried to use my name to steal $12,000 to fund a party she could never afford. So do not ever call me a disgrace again. You raised a thief and a fraud. You deal with her. Maeve." His voice was suddenly small, the booming authority entirely gone. He sounded like a very old, very tired man. I did not know the number was that high. I did not write that text." "It does not matter," I whispered. "You believed her without asking me. You always do. Have a nice life, Thaddeus." I ended the call. The patriarch of the family had been disarmed and neutralized. But the collateral damage was far from over. I arrived at my corporate office at 8:45, dressed in a sharp tailored blazer, carrying my briefcase. I walked through the glass doors, greeted the receptionist, and rode the elevator up to the logistics floor. My mind was focused entirely on the quarterly freight reports I needed to review. I assumed the family drama was contained to the frantic phone calls of the morning. I was wrong. By noon, the extended family network had been fully mobilized. My phone started buzzing with notifications from Facebook. Ursula, my mother's sister and the undisputed gossip queen of our extended family, had taken to the internet. Ursula loved nothing more than stirring the pot and playing the moral authority. She had posted a long, rambling status update tagging 20 different relatives. "Heartbroken for my beautiful niece Imogen today," the post read. "It takes a truly cold and heartless person to promise to help a child celebrate their sweet 16, only to cancel everything at the last minute out of pure spite. Family is supposed to support each other, not tear each other down. Praying for Lorelai during this stressful time. Some people only care about their corporate paychecks and have ice in their veins." Below the post, my cousins were already leaving angry comments, calling me toxic and selfish. They were the classic flying monkeys, mobilized by Lorelai's tears to attack the designated target without ever asking for the truth. I was just about to lock my phone in my desk drawer when the intercom on my desk buzzed. It was the front desk receptionist. "Maeve? I am so sorry to bother you, but your mother is down here in the lobby. She is causing a bit of a scene. She is demanding to speak with you." I closed my eyes, a wave of profound embarrassment washing over me. Genevieve had actually driven to my workplace. I stood up, smoothing my blazer, and walked out of my glass-walled office. Before I could even reach the elevators, Montgomery, the regional director and my direct superior, stepped out of the boardroom. Montgomery was a no-nonsense veteran of the logistics industry who valued efficiency above all else. He saw the look on my face. "Trouble, Maeve?" he asked quietly. "My mother is in the lobby," I admitted, keeping my voice steady. "We're having a severe family dispute regarding financial boundaries. I will go down and handle it. I apologize for the disruption." Montgomery shook his head. "You are in the middle of a massive contract negotiation today. You do not have time for lobby drama. I will handle it." Before I could protest, Montgomery strode past me toward the elevators. I followed at a distance. When the doors opened to the ground floor, I saw Genevieve standing by the reception desk, dabbing her eyes with a tissue, playing the tragic victim for the confused security guards. Montgomery walked straight up to her. "Ma'am, I am the regional director of this facility. Maeve is currently leading a critical infrastructure meeting. She is entirely unavailable. If this is a personal matter, you will need to contact her after business hours. If you continue to disrupt my lobby, I will have security escort you off the premises." Genevieve gaped at him, her fake tears drying up instantly in the face of actual, unyielding corporate authority. She looked around, realizing her manipulative tactics held absolutely no power here. Without a word, she turned and scurried out the glass doors. I looked at Montgomery. He gave me a brief nod. "Your value to this company is measured by your exceptional work, Maeve. Do not let emotional extortionists distract you from your career." The contrast was staggering. My own mother tried to sabotage my workplace to protect a liar, while my boss shielded me because he respected my actual worth. I went back up to my desk and opened Facebook. It was time to deal with Ursula. I scrolled down to her hateful post. However, I noticed the comment section had suddenly devolved into utter chaos. Ursula had attempted to post a screenshot of a text message from Lorelai to prove how devastated my sister was. But Ursula, being technologically illiterate, had uploaded the wrong screenshot from her camera roll. Instead of a sad message, Ursula had accidentally posted a screenshot of a private conversation she had with Lorelai 3 weeks ago. The image was crystal clear. Lorelai's text bubble read, "I am so stressed out. Imogen is just too fat for the dress I picked. She looks like a stuffed sausage. I am putting her on a strict water fast until the fitting. This party is my only chance to network with the real estate wives, and she is ruining the aesthetic by refusing to exercise." The internet had exploded. The flying monkeys who were attacking me minutes ago were now turning their weapons on Lorelai and Ursula. Relatives were horrified. Friends of the family were leaving disgusted comments about child abuse and eating disorders. Ursula was frantically trying to delete the post, but it had already been screenshotted dozens of times. I leaned back in my chair, watching the digital fire burn. The truth has a funny way of escaping, especially when arrogant people get sloppy. Their masks had not just slipped, they had shattered into a million sharp pieces for the whole world to see. 3 excruciatingly long days passed. The silence from my family was deafening, but it was a peaceful, beautiful silence. The fallout from Ursula's disastrous Facebook post had effectively neutralized any further attacks against me. Lorelai had deactivated her Instagram account after people started flooding her wellness posts with comments about starving her own daughter. Thaddeus and Genevieve had retreated into their house, too humiliated by the public exposure of the forged signature and the fat-shaming texts to show their faces at the country club. On Friday evening, the original date of the party, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered it cautiously. "Maeve." The voice was tiny, raspy, and entirely stripped of its usual arrogant edge. It was Lorelai. She sounded like she had been crying for days. "What do you want, Lorelai?" I asked, feeling no pity, only a cold, clinical detachment. "I am sorry," she whispered. The words sounded foreign in her mouth. I panicked. I wanted the party to be perfect, and I knew I couldn't afford it, and I thought you wouldn't notice until it was too late, and then you would just pay it to avoid a lawsuit. I messed up. You committed fraud. I corrected her. You forged a digital signature to steal $12,000. Do not minimize it. I know, she sobbed. I know. Mom and Dad will barely speak to me. Evander is furious because he looks like a fool in front of his friends. We had to move the party to Mom's backyard. We bought sheet cake from the grocery store. It is humiliating. She paused, taking a ragged breath. Maeve, please. I am begging you. The dress boutique. When you canceled everything, they kept the $2,200. We desperately need that money to pay off the credit card we used for the backyard decorations. Can you please call them and authorize a refund to my account? Just the dress money. Please. A slow, genuine smile spread across my face. Oh, Lorelai, I said softly. I forgot to tell you about the dress boutique. Tell me what? She asked, her voice trembling with desperate hope. When I initiated the emergency cancellation, the boutique manager informed me that their policy strictly prohibits cash refunds for custom orders, I explained. However, since my name and my corporate card were listed as the primary financial guarantor on the account, she transferred the entire $2,200 balance into a store credit voucher, issued exclusively to me. What? Lorelai gasped. Yes, I continued, enjoying every single syllable. I went down to their corporate wear department yesterday on my lunch break. I used the voucher to purchase 2 bespoke, tailored wool suits for my upcoming board meetings. They fit perfectly right off the rack. I did not even have to starve myself for 3 weeks to zip them up. There was a choked, agonizing sound from the other end of the line, like the sound of a deflating balloon. You stole my money, she hissed, a brief flash of the old entitlement returning. You tried to steal $12,000 from my bank account, Lorelai. Consider the suits a penalty fee for identity theft. Do not ever call this number again. I hung up. I blocked the unknown number, just as I had blocked her real number, my father's number, and my mother's number. Later that night, I received a text message from a burner phone. I almost deleted it, but the first line caught my eye. Aunt Maeve, it's Imogen. I immediately softened. I sat down on my couch and read the message. I just wanted to say thank you, Imogen wrote. I know everything blew up and Mom is crying in the garage, but honestly, I am so relieved. I hated that fancy hotel. I hated the people Mom invited. I hated that itchy, heavy dress she made me starve for. Tonight, my friends came over to the backyard. We ate cheap pizza in our sweatpants, played video games, and ate grocery store cake. It was the best birthday I have ever had. Thank you for stopping the crazy. Tears pricked my eyes. The one innocent person in this entire disaster was exactly where she needed to be. I replied immediately. You are so welcome, sweetie. You look beautiful in sweatpants. Check your personal email. Before responding to her, I had logged into my banking portal. I set up a secure, high-yield digital savings bond in Imogen's name, locked so her parents could not touch it. I deposited $1,000 into it. It was the seed money for her college fund, a ticket to her future independence. She replied a minute later. Aunt Maeve, this is too much. It is exactly what you deserve, I typed back. Learn to be independent, Imogen. Never rely on anyone else to fund your life. I love you. 6 months have passed since the Sweet 16 that never happened. The changing of the seasons brought a profound, beautiful shift in my life. The absence of my family did not create a gaping hole or a sense of loss like society tells you it will. Instead, it created vast, open, breathable space. I stopped waiting for phone calls that only demanded money. I stopped spending my weekends driving across the state to fix problems I did not create. I stopped twisting myself into a pretzel to earn the approval of people who were fundamentally incapable of giving it. Without the constant, draining anchor of their toxic drama, my career skyrocketed. Montgomery promoted me to senior regional director. With a massive increase in my salary, and without the constant financial drain of helping my parents and sister, I started spending money on myself for the very first time. I bought a ticket to Italy. I spent 2 weeks drinking wine in Tuscany, turning off my phone and realizing that the world is incredibly large and filled with people who will respect you simply for existing. I hired a ruthless estate lawyer named Ronan. We drafted an ironclad will ensuring that if anything were to happen to me, every single asset I own would be liquidated and donated to a charity supporting young women in STEM. My family would not get a single rusted dime. The dust had settled, but the echoes occasionally returned. Yesterday morning, I logged into my personal email to check a shipping notification. Sitting in the spam folder was an incredibly long email from my mother. It was titled, "Thanksgiving, please come home." I skimmed the preview text. It was filled with the usual manipulative buzzwords. She wrote that family is forever, that life is too short to hold grudges, and that they were all willing to let the past stay in the past if I just drove down for turkey dinner next week. She did not mention the $12,000. She did not mention the forged signature. She did not mention my father telling me I was dead to him. She just wanted the designated punching bag to return to the table so they could pretend they were a perfect, happy family again. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel sad. I felt absolutely nothing at all. I clicked the small trash can icon. The email vanished into the digital void, permanently deleted. I closed my laptop, put on my running shoes, and went for a jog in the crisp autumn air. But sometimes, when I tell the story to people, I get mixed reactions. Some people cheer for the corporate revenge and the canceled contracts. But others, usually people who come from tight-knit, healthy families, give me a look of deep pity. They tell me that family is complicated, that people make mistakes, and that cutting off my own parents and sister over money is excessively harsh. They tell me I should have been the bigger person and accepted the Thanksgiving olive branch. So, I am putting it out there for the internet to decide. Am I wrong? Is it truly cold-hearted to permanently lock the door on the people who raised you, just because they treated you like an ATM? Or is cutting off the infection the only logical way to ensure you survive? Did I cross the line by letting the hotel cancel everything, keeping the dress money, and ignoring my mother's plea for reconciliation, or was I simply enforcing the boundaries they forced me to build? Thank you for following Maeve's story today. If you've also faced a toxic family, or if you support Maeve's decision to cut ties completely, please leave your story and thoughts in the comments below. I always read them. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can meet again in the next dramatic episodes. Have a peaceful day.